Welcome back to Harvest Headlines, the show that's all about elevating agriculture by digging into the real stories behind our primary industries. I'm your host, Emma, and today we're heading into the paddocks to talk about sheep farming, a timeless yet constantly evolving part of global agriculture. Sheep farming, in its simplest form, is the practice of raising sheep for meat, wool, and milk. But while the animals may be the same, the systems and styles of farming them vary widely, depending on where in the world you are. Here in New Zealand, sheep farming has long been an iconic part of the rural landscape. In fact, there was a time when sheep outnumbered people in the country by almost 20 to 1. Today, New Zealand is still one of the world's top exporters of lamb and strong wool. Our temperament, climate, and wide open landscapes allow for extensive pasture-based farming systems where sheep are free to graze all year round. Compare that to the United Kingdom, where sheep farming often takes place on small, hilly farms, many of them centuries old. UK farmers put a strong focus on heritage breeds and seasonal lambing, producing meat for local markets and traditional dishes. Meanwhile, in Australia, sheep stations can span thousands of hectares, focusing on a large-scale fine merino wool production. In Africa, Asia, and South America, sheep are often raised on a smaller scale, integrated into mixed farming systems where they contribute not just meat or wool, but also milk, manure, and sometimes even cultural or religious significance. What's fascinating is how climate, terrain, tradition, and market demand all shape the way sheep are farmed in different parts of the world. Even within New Zealand, practices differ based on region, land type, and even farmer preference. That brings us to our guest today, Craig Robertson, a lifelong sheep farmer based in the Canterbury region of the South Island. Craig has spent his entire working life in the industry, experiencing firsthand how sheep farming has changed over the decades, from the dominance of wool to the rise of lamb exports, and now increasing interest in sustainability, genetics, and soil health. Canterbury, with its flat to rolling plains and dry summers, is one of New Zealand's most productive agriculture zones. It's a place where farmers rely heavily on planning, irrigation, and smart pasture management to keep their operations thriving year after year. In today's episode, we'll be talking with Craig about what a typical year on a sheep farm looks like, how technology and breeding have changed the game, and what advice he'd give to younger people thinking about a future in farming. So whether you're tuning in from the hills of Otago, a farm in the UK, or just listening from your city flat, this episode is your chance to get a real glimpse into the life of New Zealand sheep farmer, and how one man's decade of experience can tell us a lot about the past, present, and future of the industry. Let's jump in. Hi, Craig.
Hello.
What do you find the most challenging about sheep farming?
Probably not having a crystal ball to tell us what's going to happen next. There's always something changing, and trying to make it profitable for what we're doing is always a very big challenge, really.
So you would say the most challenging thing was like the economics around it?
Yes, just trying to make money from having sheep, having the best sort of sheep that fits our farming system.
So we did a brief introduction about you, but can you tell us a little bit about what you actually do as a farmer and what you farm and stuff like that?
Yeah, so at the moment we've got about 400 Warrior Romney ewes, which were for producing wool for carpets, and also when crossed with meat breed rams get good lambs for selling to the works. And now we've started to change over to Wiltshire's self-shedding sheep, because wool is worth nothing, so it's actually costing us to shear a sheep. So we decided that we will change to Wiltshires so that we don't have as much work as what we do with the Wairua Omnis. We also raise 200 or 300 bobby calves, so 4-day-old calves from the dairy farms. Of those, 200 of them will be Frisian bulls, which we hope to sell at 100 kilos before December. And the other 100 will be beef cross steers, which we try to keep for 2 years and sell after they've done 2 winters. And then we do a little bit of crop, just a bit of barley to feed them, and baleage to winter all the animals through.
How long do you keep your sheep around?
So we keep them until they run out of teeth or they run out of condition. So that can be between 4 to 8 years. I have known them 12 years and they've still had teeth. We don't do it by age so much as when they are starting to lose condition. So when they don't have any teeth, they start to lose their condition, and it's too hard to bring them through the winter.
Okay. So where do you see the industry going in the future?
It's really tough. Like, wool has started to pick up. We're talking about the coarse wools, not the fine merino wool. But it's still, for us to stay in wool, it would need to be 3 times its value that it is now, just to make it profitable to stay there. There is the option of milking sheep, and for those that are passionate about trying to do that, and it will come. It is something that is consumed worldwide. So not that big here in New Zealand yet, but it will be. You're always going to have the fine merinos, because the country that they live on, no other sheep can basically live there. It's just for them, which is the same the other way around. We can't run merinos down here. They just get foot rot and really don't do very well at all.
So they don't do well in around the Canterbury Plains and things?
No, they like merinos. They like that high country where it's kind of drier and colder, and sort of, they don't really do so well on lush green pastures like what the Roweries do that we've got. So when you're saying that, you've got to choose a sheep that's going to handle your terrain, your farmers like, which can be different to 10 k's down the road someone else does, because as there's always going to be meat, they'll always do that, because certain places land can't be used for cattle, so sheep do better there. And there'll always be some sheep, all sorts of different breeds. But what's profitable for your farm is not necessarily what's good for neighbours.
Our third question, how does the economy affect your business?
Greatly, as in people started using synthetic carpets, which killed the wool for our breed of sheep. The more sheep meat that's eaten, like a lot of our meat, fat lambs and that, they go to England and in places in Europe. We're actually doing quite good meat-wise. It's worth quite a lot of money at the moment, but it's still only where it should have been 10 years ago. In the last 20 years, the actual price hasn't gone up for what we get paid for a lamb, but what price in the supermarket has. And then you've got what it costs us, fertiliser, seed, so all those prices go up. So if we get a high dollar, we have to pay more money to put fertiliser on, but we get less for our lamb or our meat and our wool. If we get a low dollar, we get more for the meat and wool, but we pay more.
Yeah. So it's basically out of everyone that gets a benefit from like the industry and sheep industry, it's going to be the supermarkets from the meat.
So it's as soon as it leaves our property, that's when people start taking on things. So we send them to the freezing works, then the freezing works take out a percentage that they to kill them, and then there'll be the middleman who takes percentage because he wants to sell it to the supermarket, and then there's a supermarket guy and he'll add on his percentage, and they just keep going and going and going. So if you're selling them, say, to England, you've got this freezing works, then you've got the middleman who sells it to the guy at the shipping company, then the shipping company go across to the ports, and then the ports to the foreign ports, then them to their warehousing, then them to the supermarkets, and then so the wee middleman's just taking his chip out of it all the time, and the consumer at the end, he's paying a fortune and complaining the farmers are charging too much.
So if we were to directly sell to a consumer, how much would we sell our sheep for?
So we're getting about $7-8 a kilo.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't quite work that way because you've got to go through the freezing works somehow. So I think it would be double would be the cost. So they're looking at, say, $14 a kilo, and in the supermarket you're probably paying $25.
Wow. So it would be a lot better to go from farmers to the freezers works to straight to the consumer.
Yeah, but that's not how it works.
Yeah. Okay. Why has there been such a decrease in stock numbers?
Dairying took over a lot for the last probably 30 years. The dairy board, before it became Fonterra, was a very cunning and well managed dairy board. You had the wool board. The wool board was absolutely useless, and the people that were in it didn't do anything for wool, and that's why sheep died, really. So the dairying it's big money, it's easy money. So they can budget every month. They know exactly what they're getting coming in and pretty much what they're going to spend. When it's sheep farming, you get paid when you sell the wool and when you sell the lambs. So you might get paid. So for us, we share we'll share this year in December. So we'll get paid in December for wool, and lambs January, February, March for the lambs, and then we'll get nothing.
So you're getting paid 4 months out of the year?
Yep. The rest of it you got a budget to keep your money for, and so sheep controlling fuck knows, because government owned them. Okay, so you had the sheep wool board, sheep meat board, beef dairy board. The dairy board were very proactive. For years they were very proactive, and they just went out and found markets. And the wool board, they just sat on the laurels and went, hey, England's going to buy our wool. They have done since World War II. That's just and so they just sat back and got paid to do nothing. These are the middlemen again, which we can't get away without doing. So when we're selling wool, there's a wool levy, which goes to the wool board, and that's theoretically to make wool worth more. Now that was fine when we were getting $5, $6 a kilo for it, and then it hit $1.20 a kilo, and the price of sharing, of course, went up, which makes it non-profitable. Whereas the dairy board, which when they split up the dairy board, it became Fonterra and all those little like West Gold
in Sinlay?
Sinlays, and all those ones could start off. So everyone, the dairy board, everyone had to sell to the dairy board.
Oh, okay.
So then their milk to the dairy board, and then they became Fonterra, but they wanted to stop Fonterra being the only player in the market.
Monopoly.
Yeah. So Fonterra, so all this people, the dairy farmers had to, the percentage of them, that milk had to go to the smaller cheese factories and that sort of thing. So Fonterra went, yep, that's fine. Oh, that turned into the dairy board went, yep, that's fine. They turned themselves into Fonterra, and you look at Fonterra now, it's huge.
And the sheep board just didn't catch up.
The sheep board didn't care. They were sat on their butts and did nothing. They really did. And they got paid a fortune for it, and they got nothing for it. And we could all see it happening. We could see it years and years ago, but we couldn't stop them doing anything.
So, what do you think could be done to turn this around?
Time, I suppose. Once people actually realise that using synthetic carpets is not as good, then they actually start paying to have wool and back in things, woolen jerseys, woolen socks, and there are people that are trying to invent things to use the wool for.
We had this person come to our school who was making wool rugs out of the seconds wool that was taken that couldn't be processed.
Okay.
And making them into like house accessories.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of things. Ticos use your wee hats that you wear, beanies, all those sorts of things. There is a diverse amount of things that they make with wool. There just isn't. The making things out of plastics is easier and cheaper, and the plastics or the oil companies got in and made it really, really cheap to make synthetics, which is big money for the oil companies, and then killed off the sort of that wool and sheepskins. They're not worth anything. Used to be worth a fortune.
So all of this is just contributing to the decrease in sheep numbers?
Yeah, so that's all so stop people wanting to do it. Why would you have sheep when you can run a dairy farm that's producing 3 times the profit? And things like that.
How much have your numbers been cut personally?
Well, we got up to around 3,000 ewes, so we're down at 600 now.
Including the self-shedding ones?
Yeah, including self-shedding ones. So we'll keep around about 400 or 500 of them, and just fill in the gaps with beef, whether dairy cross or dairy grazing or just raising beef cattle.
So you're making that transition over?
Yes, I'm not killing it off completely. Like our farm sort of requires a few sheep. They eat different things to the cattle, especially the younger stock. So the old ewes, you can put them on rough pastures and they eat that quite nicely, whereas young animals don't do well on rough old grass that old animals like to eat, where they want the young animals to do best on the nice clovers, the lush green grass, things like that. Whereas where we are in the Melbourne Hills, a lot of our pastures we can't upgrade, so they are just the old brown top and things. When the ewes can eat that, they don't mind it. They only have to maintain weight, they don't have to put on weight, they don't have to grow. So having a few of them is certainly it tidies the place up really and keeps everything in balance.
Okay, Craig. What would be your advice to future farmers?
You've got to have a great passion for it. It's what it is. If you don't have the passion for it, every day will be a struggle. But if you have passion for it, then you have already done 2/3 of the battle that you'll have. My advice would be to really do your homework on what you're doing. You can never know enough, and just because this person did it this way doesn't mean the next person will do it the same way. Be very, very open to changing the way that you think, perceive that it should be done.
So the mentality is a big part of it.
Yep. Oh, definitely. You've got to be open to a lot of different ideas. It's just how things go. Going and seeing multiple farms, and even in the same location, they'll all be different. Not one of them will be doing it wrong, and you just pick and choose the best bits that suit you. Really.
So, with like farmers, young farmers starting in the industry, would you say they need any prior training, or just go for it as best as you can?
No, I would say they need prior training, but they need training from multiple places. Because if you only learn one person's things, you'll learn all their bad mistakes, and although they'll probably have some quite good ones as well. Once you worked for a few different places, then you'll pick out what works best for you. And like having had ag students, you see that if you show them how to do it your way, and then you leave them for a while, they will actually come up with their own way that's easiest for them to do something. And that's just what you've got to do. You've got to be able to being able to adapt to anything. And probably a wise person once told me to ask why. And I don't think young people probably won't ask why enough. And we had a Fijian work for us once, and they'd go, yep, and you go, do you know what I'm talking about? And he'd go, no. So it's about asking until you know. And some people can understand something straight away. Other people need either 2 or 3 times they're going to be told it, or shown a different way. And it's quite often up to the person that's telling them to recognise that I'm doing it wrong. You know, I'm teaching you the wrong way. And that.
Okay. Would you say at school, would you need to take any specific subjects that would help you with farming?
It's a tough one. Just about every subject you can use in farming. There's probably not many that we don't use. Like, as farmers, we are generally a jack of all trades, pretty much master of none. Like, I took extra welding course when I was at school, just to learn how to weld. Doing agriculture in class is great, which is a good thing. But then your sciences, biology, there's everything that you do in school can just about be related back to farming. You even like statistics. We do a lot of statistics, lambing percentages, calving percentages, or just basic statistics, but we use a lot of them. And if you've got a basic understanding of how they work, then even though it made no sense at school whatsoever, you pull these sorts of things out. Oh, yeah, I actually understand that because it's now in something that I understand in a way it's presented to me. The same with being dyslexic. Doesn't in any way hinder you. It's probably more of a blessing because you find other ways to do things. You will probably ask more questions because you can't read it, and if it doesn't have a picture, we tend to ask a bit more questions like, how does that work? Why that doesn't make sense until it makes sense to you.
So are you speaking from personal experience about the dyslexia?
Yeah, I have dyslexia, not too bad, but yes, it's certainly sometimes words get a bit confusing. But like So I love Google because it'll just about tell me what I want to know. Or I will just ask until I get the right meaning of whatever someone's trying to tell me.
I unfortunately believe that I have a brother that I'm related to and that you are too. So Jack was dyslexic and went through high school and always wanted to be a farmer. So he struggled with his English and you made him stay in school because he needed to have his maths, and he believed that he never needed he didn't need English to be a farmer. And how did you work around that?
Okay, well, the English one, I said you need to be able to write your name and where you're going. And he's like, why? I said, well, when we go hunting and you write it in a book, someone can come and find you if something happens. Okay, that makes sense to him. So when it came to things like maths, I actually went into his maths class in year 8 at his high school, and explained how we use maths every day. And so I drew up a map of the farm, and I put a paddocks, and I put down how many hectares were in each paddock, and then I put, all right, we're going to plant barley at 100 kilos to the hectare. How much barley do I need to do this paddock? How much fertiliser at 220 kilos to the hectare? And then I said, all right, well, we can now graze. We've grown 3 tonne of dry matter. How many sheep can we now graze on it? So all these sorts of things started to make sense. Oh, we're not just adding, subtracting, whatever. We actually got something.
Perimeter and area.
Yeah,
like it's actually...
and it's like, okay, perimeter and area. Work out how big the paddock is. Yeah, it's all good nowadays. You just go on GPS and figure it out. But in the old days, it was you walk around it or you drive around it and go, oh, yep, it's 1,200 metres around the outside. How big's my paddock? And there you work them out. And simply because you want to know. And when you actually want to know something, you'll do your damnedest to find out what it is.
So you'd say that you can draw a lot of different things from subjects at school, so it doesn't necessarily matter if you specialise in one area or if your school doesn't have agriculture. You just have to have the drive to get there. Yeah.
So you don't need to do agriculture. You'll pick up most things. And probably in a first year of working somewhere, you'll pick up the extra bits, and then you'll know what you need to know, what you don't know. Biggest thing is to know what you don't know, which is like, oh, I don't actually know how to measure a paddock for how much grass I need. Well, I don't. Me personally, I get a crop rep to give me spray recommendations because although I could go and low, yes, it's got aphids, and yes, it's got this weed and that weed. It would probably take me a good couple of days to work out what he can do in 30 seconds. And plus the chemicals that I want to put on it. So I don't need to answer all the questions. I need to know who to ask, and that's a big. So I ask the people that specialise in that field.
So when you're sheep farming, you're not just working by yourself. You're surrounded by a community of people to make your farm work.
Yeah, and you have to be able to use